specifically reduced echelon form, elementary row operation, and row equivalent. In linear algebra, a matrix is in echelon form if it has the shape resulting from a Gaussian elimination. All rows consisting of only zeros are at the bottom. The leading coefficient, also called the pivot, of a non-zero row is always strictly to the right of the leading coefficient of the row above it. So, in definition, an m by n matrix A is said to be a reduced echelon form if it has satisfies the following properties. Letter A. All zero rows, if there are any, appear at the bottom of the matrix. So lahat daw ng zero nasa bottom ng matrix. Letter B. The first non-zero entry from the left of a non-zero row is a 1. This entry is called the leading one of its row. So dapat 1 daw yung leading. For each non-zero row, the leading one appears to the right and above and below any leading ones in preceding rows. And finally, if a column contains a leading one, if a column contains a leading one, then all the entries in that column are 0. So dapat lahat daw ng entry dun sa column na yon ay 0. Okay? Now, a matrix is reduced echelon form appears as a staircase. Para siyang diagonal na linya. Parang ganon. Para siyang stair. Yan. Kaya echelon pattern of leading ones descending from the left corner of the matrix. So, from the left, pababa siya. Parang kung nakakita na kayo ng hagdanan, di ba? Staircase. So, ano ba yung itsura ng hagdanan? Alam, bagal. Parang ganun siya, di ba? Ayan. Okay? So, an n by n matrix satisfying properties A, B, and C is said to be in row echelon form. A similar definition can be formulated in the obvious manner for reduced column echelon form and column echelon form. So, reduced column echelon form and column echelon form will be discussed thoroughly in our next video. Okay, so in here, we will focus more on this term elementary row echelon form. So, the following are matrices in reduced row echelon form, since they satisfy properties A, B, C, and D. So for letter A, this is a sample of reduced row echelon form. This is also a sample of reduced row echelon form. This may 1 siya dito. And then it's just like a staircase, no? Okay, yung staircase na yan. Okay, yung parang yan, diagonal. And then for letter C, this is also an echelon form. But the matrices that follows are not in reduced row echelon form. For letter D, it is not a reduced row echelon form. There is a 0 at the middle. And then letter E, it is not also a reduced row echelon form because there is number 2 here. Okay. For letter F, this is not reduced row echelon form because there is 1 here. 1's supposed to be here. Okay. And G is also not a reduced row echelon form. The following are matrices in row echelon form. So, yung dito, these are not reduced row echelon, and the other is not a reduced is a reduced row echelon. But in here, the examples are row echelon form. So this one is an example of row echelon form. The other is also an example of a row echelon form. In here, this one is an example of a row echelon form, letter G. Okay? Now, let's start with the elementary row column operation. So, I'm done discussing the introduction about the echelon form, kung ano yung appearance niya. Now, I'll be going to discuss the first part, which is the elementary row echelon, column operation on a matrix A, which is any one of the following operations. We have that type 1, interchange any two columns. So, ibig sabihin ng type 1, pwede mong pagbaliktarin or hindi na pagbaliktarin, ipaglipat ng lugar yung row or column. Two rows or column. No? So, type 2 naman, multiply a row or column by a non-zero number. Like for instance, 3 times row 1, 3 times row 2, 3 times row 4. And then type 3, add a multiple of one row to another. So, ibig sabihin ng add a multiple of one row to another, you can just say, let's say, um, R1 plus R2, or pwedeng 3 times row 1 plus R2. So, pwedeng ganun siya. So, we now introduce the following notation for elementary row and elementary column operations on matrices. Interchange row, which is type 1, for I, which is the row, and J is the column. So, that is R sub I, interchange R sub J, or C sub I, interchange C sub J. Later on, you will understand this, but in this portion, I'm just talking about the theories in elementary row column operation. But there is a simple way of discussing it by giving you, of course, a direct example. Now, replace row or column I and K times row column I for type 2, that is KR sub I to R sub I, or KC sub I interchange. I think this is not interchange. It should be replaced to C sub I. Replace now row column J by K times column or row I plus row quantity column J is a type 3. So example, KR sub I plus R sub J is the resulting R sub J. No? Kumbaga, kung 3 ito, and then yung R sub I 4, 3 times 4 is 12, and then R sub J is 2. So 3 times 4, 12 plus 2 is 14. So yung bagong R sub J is equal to 14. Ulitin ko, later on makikita nyo kung paano ba yan. And then, or for the column, we have KC sub I plus C sub J, resulting to C sub J. Okay, so to understand it better, I think I have an example here. Okay, so for instance, this one, we have a m by n matrix A, such that we have the following values: 0, 0, 1, 2, 2, 3, 0, negative 2, 3, 3, 6, and negative 9. So, interchange row 1 and 3. So, to do that, pag sabing row 1 and 3, that is type 1, which is a representation of B. So, itong A, R sub 1, interchange R sub 3, pwede mo siyang ilapatin na letter B na siya. Okay? So, parang equivalent, parang ganun siya. Okay? Or bigyan natin siya ng ibang name. Instead of A, magiging B na siya. because nag-iba na yung mga numbers niya dahil nga meron tayong ginalaw. Although, equivalent siya in terms of the matrix. Kasi galing lang siya dito sa original. So, R sub 1 interchange R sub 3. Yung, okay, gumamit tayo ng pen para mas magets natin. So, itong R sub 1, row 1, where's the pen? This row 1, this one, at saka R sub 3, ayan. Interchange daw. Ayan yung symbol na interchange. So, ito, pupunta doon. Ito, pupunta dito. So, magiging 3, 3, 6 na, I think it's negative 9, and 0, 0, 1, 2. Okay? So, that is type 1. Yung kanina. Next, multiply the first row of B by 1/3. We obtain. So, this is type 2. So, yung I think this is B na, no? Kasi nga, pinalitan na natin So, anyway, tama ba? Yeah, kasi ito yung focus natin. So, B yan. Okay, so letter B. C equals B 1/3. Sabi niya, 1/3, 1/3 multiply the first row. 1/3. Multiply mo daw yung first row. Ito yung first row natin ng 1/3. So, 1 times 1/3 is 1. 3 times 1/3 is 1. Ay, sorry pala, 3 times 1/3 dyan. 6 times 1/3 is 2, and 9 times 1/3 is 3. So, ang target natin kanina is maging 1, actually, maging 1 yung pinaka-ano niya, di ba? Yung pinaka-leading, or yung pivot niya. So, dito, pwede natin siyang pangalanan na letter C na. Okay? In representation of B sub 1/3 R sub 1, turning to R sub 1. So, ito yung bagong R sub 1 natin. Okay, nag-iba siya because we multiply 1/3. So, that's type 2. Next, adding negative 2 times row 1 plus of C to the row 2 of C, we obtain. So, this is type 3. Okay. So, sa type 3, letter C na yan. So, nagkamali lang po ng type. Letter C, mag-add daw tayo ng negative 2 times. So, negative 2 times the R1, okay, plus R2. So, negative 2 daw kay row 1, tapos i-add daw kay R2. Okay, ganun daw yung magiging result. Pero ito yung focus natin na dito tayo titingin yan kasi letter C tayo. Ito, C. So, siya yung representation ni D. So, we have negative 2 times 1. Ito yan, negative 2 times 1 resulting to R2 daw. Ito siya. Usually, kung ano yung in-add mo, dun siya mariretain So, sa R2, sa R2 siya. So, we have negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 plus R2, which is 2. And the answer is 0. And then, isusulat muna natin pala to. Okay? Next, negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 plus 3 is 1. Then, negative 2 times 2, negative 4 plus 0 is negative 4. And negative 2 times 3 is negative 6 plus negative 2 is negative 8. As you can see, naging 1 lahat ito. And then, in this portion, 0, 0 yan. So, we can say that this is an example of an echelon form. Okay? So, that's how we do type 1, 2, and 3. But you can master this when you do or when you solve different examples. Kasi you cannot master solving echelon form in just a click So, you need to practice. Okay? And also, there's no secret formula to have or to solve echelon form. Kumbaga walang secret, it's all about tansyahan siya. No? Tatansyahin mo siya or didiscardin mo siya para makakuha ka ng ganitong value na 1, 1, and 1. Okay? Or pwedeng 0 naman yung bottom no problem. Basta yung dito, it should be 1, 1. Okay? Tingin pa tayo. An n by n matrix B is said to be a row column equivalent to an m by n matrix A if B can produce by applying a finite sequence of elementary row column operation to A. Okay? So, tingnan natin kung ano ba ang ibig sabihin ng definition na to. Ang sinasabi na yung row column equivalent to an m by n matrix of A if B. So, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina na equivalent. No? Ito. Yung A, since inano na natin siya, parang pinrocess natin siya. So, papangalanan natin siya na B. Although this one, galing natin siya originally dito, but still, they are equivalent. So, example. Okay? So, we have let A is equal to the square bracket of 1, 2, 4, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, negative 2, 2, and 3. If we add 2 times row 3 of A to its second row, we obtain this one. And this is a type 3. Diba? 2 row 3 plus row 2. So, mag-a-add daw tayo dito. Mag-multiply tayo ng 2 sa row 3. At yan, row 3. Tapos i-add natin sa row 2. So, 2 times r sub 3. So, that is 2 times 1 is 2 times 2 is 4. Ito yan. And then, bakit in-add dun sa 2? Kasi ito yung condition niya, r sub 2. Okay, I hope nakikita siya, though medyo maliit siya sa screen. So, we have 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 plus 1 is negative 3, and 2 times 2 is 4 plus 3 is 7. 2 times 3 is 6 plus 2 is 8. So, this is the new value of row number 2 that we got from A. But still, they are equivalent because this matrices originally came from A. So, B is the row equivalent to A. Interchanging row 2 and 3 of B. Yung row 2 at saka row 3, ito yung sinasabi ko kanina kaya iniiba ko yung letters. Row 2 and 3 interchange daw. So, pagpalit ng natin. So, that's type 1. Row 2 and row 3 interchange. So, yung row 2 bababa, yung row 3 tataas. So, magiging ganito yung itsura niya. Although, nag-iba sila ng position, originally they came from B. So, that is what we call C. And so, C is row equivalent to B. Okay? Now, multiplying row 1 of C by 2. So, that's type number 2. C2 row 1 becomes the row 1. So, yung row 1 ng B, ng C, ito na, si C, okay? Multiply natin siya ng 2. So, we have 2 times 1 is 2. 2 times 2 is 4. 2 times 4 is 8. And 2 times 3 is 6. Then, just copy the remaining values of rows. So, D is a row equivalent to C. Ang pinupunto lang nito is, kapag nag-process ka ng matrix, na, pwede mong ibahin yung letters niya, but still, they are said to be equivalent. Yun ang sinasabi ng definition because they came from, originally from, letter A, if that's become a B. And C originally came from letter B. Okay? And D originally came from letter C. But still, all of these are equivalent because all of these originally came from A. Diba? So, if then follows that D is row equivalent to A since we obtained D by applying 3 successive elementary row operation to A. Okay? So, parang yung operation niya, parang long division siya or long addition na equivalent siya doon sa mga given. Okay? So, yan, no? Next, another theorem. Every non-zero, so pinag-aaralan muna natin dito is more on theorem and definition. Okay? Wala pa tayo dun sa solving talaga. So, every non-zero Mn or M by N matrix A is equal to the square bracket of A sub ij is row column equivalent to matrix in row column echelon form. Example, this one. Yung leading dito, ang tawag dyan is pivot. And then, yung sa baba, pivot column ang tawag sa kanya. Ito, pivot column, itong nasa baba. Okay, siya yung parang pivot column. Kung dito yan, pivot column ang tawag dyan. Na? So, pivot is the leading term. Column 1 is the first counting from left to right column in A with a non-zero entry. So, column 1 is the pivot column of A. The first counting from top to bottom non-zero entry in the pivot column occurs in the third row. So the pivot is A sub 3, 1. 3 is the row and 1 is the column equals 2. We interchange the first and the third row of A, obtaining first and the third row, we interchange. That's parang ano siya, didiskartehan mo siya, no? Ito yon, first and second. So, since this is the pivot, yung leading natin nasa baba. Kasi 0, 0 yan eh. Kailangan meron tayong leading dito eh. Para makakuha tayo ng 1, 1, 1 dito. So, itataas natin siya. So, para mangyari yun, we need to do the type 1. We need to interchange the first column and the third column. Parang ganun ang ginawa yata. Okay? So, we interchange R sub 1 and R sub 3. So, yung R sub 1, napunta dito, 0, 2, 3, negative 4, and 1. And R sub 3, nagpunta sa top, 2, 2, negative 5, 2, and 4. So, that will become equivalent to B. Next, multiply natin the first row of B by the reciprocal of the pivot. So, ano ba yung reciprocal ng pivot? Kasi ang goal natin, guys, is maging 1 yan, di ba? So, mag-isip tayo ng reciprocal ng pivot, which is 1 half. So, multiply natin si 1 half kay R sub 1, which is the row 1, resulting to a new row 1. That's for letter B. So, we have 1 half times 2 is 1. 1 half times 2 is 1. 1 half times negative 5 is negative 5 over 2. 1 half times 2 is 1. And 1 half times 4 is 2. And then copy the remaining numbers. Okay, kasi hindi na naman natin pa-process yan. Kung ano lang yung mga row na nandito, yun lang yung gagawin natin. Since row 1, ang focus natin dito, so row 1 lang tayo. Okay? So, ito na yung ating pivot. Naging 1 na siya. So, that's good. A good indication. So, ngayon, ang target natin is etong portion na to. Okay? Etong portion na to, asan ba yan? Ito. Maging 0, 0 yan. Tapos ito, kung di mang 1, 1, 1, or yun, kahit 1 man lang yung leading niya. Okay, yun ang ating parang pinaka-target. 0, 0 ito, tapos 1, 1 yan. So, paano natin yan gagawin? So, pwede natin unahin yung sa baba, which is 2, yung ano natin, di ba? Ano sa tingin mo ang gagawin mo? Kasi usually ang focus yun yung row 1 eh. Siya yung magiging parang pambato natin para maalis natin yan. At saka siya lang yung may number dito maliban kay 2. So, maaring maybe ang gagawin ko, magmumultiply ako ng negative 2 kay row 1, tapos i-add ko kay row 4 para maging 0 yan. Tignan natin. Okay. So, yan. Sabi, add negative 2 times the first row column, row C, to the fourth of the row of C to produce a matrix D in which the only non-zero entry in the pivot column is D equals 1. Okay. So, dito, negative yan I think it's negative 2. Negative 2 R sub 1 plus R sub 4. So, balikan natin dito kasi para alam natin yung mangyayari. So, ang ano natin yan, yung C, negative 2 R sub 1 plus R sub 4. Sabi niya, resulting to ano? Kung ano yung dito, siya yung magiging result, R sub 4. So, ito, negative 2 times R sub 1, which is 1, is negative 2 plus R sub 4 is 0. Tapos, negative 2 times r sub 1, negative 2 times 0 is, plus 0 is negative 2. Negative 2 times negative 5 over 2 is positive 5 plus negative 6 is negative 1. Negative 2 times 1 is negative 2 plus 9 is 7. And negative 2 times 2 is negative 4 plus 7 which is 3. So, ito na yung value ng row 4 ngayon. Ito yung bagong new, bagong row 4 which is D. Diba? So, ito na yan. 0, negative 2, negative 1, 7, and 3. This is the result of this one. So, this is negative. Negative 2 yan. No? Di lang nakalagay. But it is negative 2. Alright, next. Ano kaya ang gagawin natin? Dito naman. So, ang gagawin ko, since ito na yung leading natin muna, kasi okay na tayo dito eh. So, dito sa tatlo na yung focus natin eh. So, yung leading natin dito, ito na. So, kailangan nito maging 1 yan. So, anong gagawin ko? So, I can interchange now this row 3 and row 2. So, that's letter D. Type number 1 para maging letter E yan. So, interchange ko sila so maging 0, 2, 3, negative 4, 1, 0, 0, 2, 3, and 4. I hope nagigets ninyo. Ulitin ko, ang pagsosolve nito ay diskarte. Kailangan maging 1 lahat yan or 1 yung portion na ito kahit dito lang, kahit 0 yan. And then 0, 0 yung dito. Yun ang target natin eh. Okay? So dito, interchange natin. So pinaglipat natin yung row 3 and 4, 2. So we have 2, 0, 2, 3, negative 4, and 1 from row 3. And row 2 is 0, 0, 2, 3, and 4. Okay, that's it. No? Okay na tayo doon. Next, multiply the second row E by 1/2 or the reciprocal. Para maging 1 yan, pwede tayo mag-multiply ng 1/2. So, that is letter E na, no? E 1/2 times row 1, row 2, resulting to row 2. The new row 2, no? So, that is 1/2 times 0 is 0, 1/2 times R2 is 1, 1/2 times 3 is 3 over 2, 1/2 times negative 4 is negative 2, and 1/2 times 1 is 1/2. Na 0, 1, 3 over 2, negative 2, and 1/2. Okay? So, ito na yung bagong row 2. Ito yan, no? Okay. Next, after nating, ito na yung ginawa ko kanina, no? After natin magawa yan, so medyo nagmo-move on na tayo. So, nakikita nyo, 1, 1, okay? Actually, pwede na natin gawing 1/2 to, pero ang target muna natin is, alisin natin ito, no? Alisin muna natin yan. Gawin natin siyang 0. So, again, pwede natin gamitin yung, kasi okay na tayo dito eh. Wala naman tayong multiply dito. So, ito na lang ang gagamitin ko. Pwede ko siyang i-multiply ng 2 dito. Then, pag nag-multiply ako ng 2 dyan, i-add ko siya sa negative 2, 0 ang magiging result niya. So, ang pwede kong gawin dyan is ito. F2 row 2 plus row 4. Row 2 and row 4 ang gagamitin natin. So, that is 2 times 1 is 2 plus negative 2 is 0. 2 times 3 over 2 is 3 plus negative 1 is 2. 2 times negative 2 is negative 4 plus 7 is 3. And 2 times 1/2 is 1 plus 3 is 4. This is now the new row 4. So, okay na. Medyo 1, 1. Okay na tayo doon. Now, after natin magawa yan, pwede na ba tayo mag 1/2 dito? Siguro pwede na rin yung reciprocal. No? So, the reciprocal of row number 3. Ayan na siya. So, reciprocal of row number 3. So, kung titignan natin dito, balikan natin, the reciprocal of row number 3 is 1/2. So, 2 times 1/2 is 1. 3 times 1/2 is 3 over 2. And 4 times 1/2 is 2. So, ito yung result. 1, 3 over 2, 2, 0, 0. Ayan. So, medyo okay na siya kasi makakakuha na tayo ng 1, 1, 1, then 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Eto na lang, tsaka eto na lang yung focus natin yan. Ano kaya ang gagawin natin para dyan? So, pwede natin i-multiply si 1 na negative 2 times 2. So, negative 2 times 2 is, times 1 is negative 2 plus 2 is 0. Ayan. Negative 2 times 3 over 2 is negative 3. Tama? And then negative 3 plus 3 is 0. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 plus 4 is 0. Lahat na ito, 0 na. Lahat na nandito, I'm sorry. Okay, dito, 0. Dito, 1, 1, 1 na. Okay lang naman yung bottom kung 0 siya. 1, 1, 1. So, matrix I is a raw echelon form. It is a raw echelon form and is also a raw equivalent to A. Therefore, I is also equivalent to A. Di ba? This is yan. Ito yan. Yung sinabi ko kanina una yan. Okay? So, that is how we do raw echelon, elementary raw echelon form. Okay? Or elementary raw column operation. Alright. Every non-zero m by n matrix matrix A is equal to A sub ij is row column equivalent to a unique matrix in reduced raw echelon form. So we will now do the reduced raw echelon form. Okay? Hindi ako sure kung ito ba yung tinatawag nilang Gauss-Jordan elimination, but let's see later. So, gamitin natin yung example natin dito sa letter I, which is, ito na yung value ng letter I natin. Diba? Meron tayong 1, 1, 1, then 3 over 2, 3 over 2, 1, negative 5 over 2, negative 1, 2, 1, 1 half. Now, I find that matrix in reduced. Kanina, elementary lang yan, raw column operation. Now, we will use reduce raw echelon form that is raw equivalent to the matrix A. Solution. We start with the matrix 1 or I above in the example that I was given in raw echelon form that is raw equivalent to 8. We add suitable multiples of each non-zero row of I to zero out of the entries above a leading one. Thus, we start by adding negative 3 over 2 times the third row of its column. So, we will start daw dito sa row 3. Okay? Kasi paano ba to? Ang reduce row, ganito kasi yung reduce. Parang ang gagawin natin is, gagawin natin 0 yung ditong portion. Parang ganyan. Pero hindi naman lahat. Itatry lang natin silang gawing 0. Okay? So, we have, for the first one, negative 3 over 2 row 3 plus row 2. Ito yung original, no? Ito yung letter I na sinasabi. Ito daw, row 3, mumultiply mo siya ng 3 over 2, negative 3 over 2, tapos i-add mo daw siya doon sa row 2. So, negative 3 over 2 plus 3 over 2 is 0. Negative 3 over 2 plus 3 over 2, times 3 over 2 is 9 over 4 plus negative 2. That's why nakakuha tayo ng negative 17 over 4. And then, negative, ano yun? Negative 3 over 2. Negative 3 over 2 times 2 is negative 6 over 2, or negative 3 plus 1 half is equal to negative 5 over 2. Tama ba? Negative 3 over 2. Negative 3 over 2 times 2 is negative 3 plus 1 half. Okay. So, 1 half, negative 6 over, tama, negative 5 over 2. Okay, so negative 5 over 2 is the answer. Now, isang 0 na tayo. Okay, next. We add 5 over 2 times the third row of J to the column. 5 over 2 times the third. plus row 1. So, sulat ko siya dito para ma-process natin. So, si letter J daw, i-multiply mo yung 5/2 sa row 3, tapos i-add mo siya sa row 1. Tama? So, 5/2 times 0 is 0 plus 1 is 1. 5/2 times 0 is 0 times 1 is 1. 5/2 times 1 is 5/2 plus negative 5/2 is 0. 5/2 times 3/2, 3/2 is 15/4 plus 1 is 15/4. Ay, sorry. Plus 1 pala yan. So that is not 15/4. That is 19/4. Tama ba? And then, 5/2 times 2 is 10/2 or 5 times 2 is 10. I'm not sure with 19/4. Tama. Okay, 19/4. Bakit siya naging 7? 5/3 times 2, 5/2 times 2 is 5. 5 times 2 is 10. It should be 10. Mali ba ako? Okay, so siguro mali na compute ko, ay nalagay ko dito. So let's suppose it's 7 na lang. But actually, it's not 7. Okay? Ayan, nawala na tayo. Wait lang. Okay, last na lang to. Actually, it's not 7, it's 10. Now, after that, finally we add negative 1 times the second row of k to its first row. So second row, negative 1 to its first row. Okay? So, i-multiply daw natin yung second row na negative 1 so, para maging 0 yung dito natin. So, that's negative 1 times 1 is negative 1 plus 1 is 0. Negative 1 times 0 is 0 plus 0, 0. Negative 1 times negative 17/4 is 17/4 plus 19/4 is equal to 9 because that's equal to, I think, 36/4, and 36 divided by 4 is 9. And finally, negative 1 times negative 5/2 is, ilan ba? 5/2 plus 7. And that's equal to 19/2. Okay? So, in this portion, naging 0, 0 na yun dito sa portion na to. So, I think that's enough for the reduced echelon form and is row equivalent to A. Yung L daw, sabi dito, equivalent din daw siya kay letter A. Kasi parang humaba lang siya. From letter A, naging letter L. Medyo mahaba yung process natin, pero the main point of this discussion is that kapag raw echelon form, ang target lang natin is makuha natin yung 1, 1, 1 dito at saka maging 0 yung doon. So, it's a matter of technique. Discarte siya. Okay, kung paano mo siya gagawin, just don't forget the type 1, type 2, and type 3 process. Okay? And then, dito naman sa reduce raw echelon form, after natin makuha yung raw echelon form, ang kailangan lang natin is maging 0, 0 man lang yung dito, or pwedeng yung dito din. Much better nga kung makuha pa natin 0 yan. Okay, for the reduced echelon form. So that's all about my lesson, which is reduced raw echelon form, elementary raw operation, and row equivalent. Okay, so with that, thank you very much for your listening.